Hello, it's time for Flashback, our weekly history quiz. Let's see what's happened in history this time. Always very curious about this. Let's go. All right, 1952, the UN's new headquarters helped start the era of glass skyscrapers. That's interesting. Made possible by air conditioning. Right, okay. I didn't realize the UN's headquarters was a major player in that era. Interesting. And kicking it off. And anyway, here we have after the North American Free Trade Agreement is signed, the U.S. lifts an 83-year ban on Mexican avocados. It helps the fruit boom in popularity. Interesting. Well, that was a Clinton era trade agreement, so that would be certainly well after 1952, sometime in the 1990s, mid to late 1990s. Yes, indeed, 1997. What an interesting thing that kind of geopolitical interaction. Just everything is so interlinked. Everything in the world is so interlinked, and popularity of avocados. I mean, I'm sure there were other factors, but clearly that enabled it. It's so interesting. All right, Vogue magazine compares Coco Chanel's unconventional little black dress to the newly ubiquitous Model Ford. Well, that would be the early 20th century. I can't remember when the Model T would have become ubiquitous, 20s or 30s, sometime in there. 1926. Okay, there we go. All right, the US launches the first GPS satellite. It's conceived when scientists track Sputnik and realize they can use satellites to locate things on Earth. Right, okay. I assume this would be sometime in, say, the 1970s. Um, I mean, I think it's safe to put it between 1952 and 1977 at least. I mean, it'll definitely be sometime in there. It was 1978. Okay, I was on the right track. What now? Colleges start giving more A's, causing grade inflation amid campus unrest and anti-war protests. Low-scoring students also risk being drafted. Right, okay. So presumably those things were sort of connected in the sense that if low-scoring students particularly were at risk of being drafted, there would be kind of ambient pressure to you just have to imagine that would just naturally occur. Again, just amazing how things are connected. Anyway, this would be the Vietnam War, certainly. So probably the 1960s. I mean, that's when there was really quite a lot of campus unrest. Yeah, okay. It even just says mid 1960s. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't pin a single year on something like that. It was a trend. All right. After the Treaty of Versailles, Britain divides Ireland into North and South. The split would later become a model for its partition of India. Right. Well, some very tricky situations created there, certainly. Anyway, Northern Ireland did celebrate its centenary recently, so it's 100 years of existence. Oh, was it? It was two or three. It was 2021 or 2022, which would mean the division of Ireland would have been 1921 or 1922. In any case, it's before 1926. 1921. There we go. Great. All right. Julia Tuttle helps found the city of Miami, in part because her land was spared by the Great Freeze that destroyed most of Florida's oranges. Wow, I'm kind of extremely curious what this means. I mean, I have to assume Miami was founded well before 1921. I mean, I'm fascinated by this fact. I need to find out more about this. 1896. I would have thought it would have been well before that. Miami only founded in 1896. Seriously. Wow. Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Well, there we go. Okay. Anyway, a doctor in Europe creates one of the first schools to train guide dogs. It helps veterans blinded by new chemical weapons such as mustard gas. Look at this. Yet another case of how geopolitical events have, because obviously guide dogs are used for so many purposes now in so many benign cases, certainly. I mean, things that don't deal with tragedies like being blinded by mustard gas. But it comes out of this horrific event. Anyway, that must have been the First World War, must have been the Great War. And it's funny, if you had just given me a doctor in Europe creates one of the first schools to train guide dogs and ended it there, I would have definitely guessed 19th century. But the new chemical weapons such as mustard gas, clearly that is a Great War event. So that'll be sometime in the mid to late 1910s, could be the 1920s. I mean, I guess it depends how long it took to get this started. I'm going to say prior to 1921, but it's going to be right on the edge. I could be wrong. It was 1916. Good. Okay. Good. Well, there we go. I say good. It was obviously, that's horrific. But anyway. All right. A German immigrant starts the first U.S. kindergarten. Inspired by Rousseau, the radical idea is playing is healthy and even educational for kids. And yeah, we certainly know that to be true at this point for sure. So let's see, late 19th century probably. I mean, there were big waves of German immigration to the United States in that century. So yeah, I mean, it'll be sometime in the probably late 19th century. 1856. Okay, so earlier than I maybe would have guessed, but correct century. All right, well there we go. Got them. Got them all this week. Great. Okay, let's just see which of these were less frequently placed correctly. Only a little more than half of people correctly placed that kindergarten bit. That's interesting. I wonder, maybe kindergarten just feels like a modern thing to people. I don't know. Most people got Miami right, which isn't a surprise to me in the sense that I would have just assumed it was even farther back, which would still have placed it correctly. About a third of people got the guide dogs thing wrong. That's fair enough. I could easily imagine putting that after 1921. Most people got the Northern sort of Division of Ireland correct. Most people got Littleback Dress and Model T correct. Just about everybody got the remainder correct, actually. Yeah. So I guess a pretty high scoring week in general. It was really just that guide dogs and kindergarten that a fair number of people failed. But there we go. That was the flashback. These are so interesting. Some very interesting kind of causal connections in this week's facts. So enjoyed that particularly. Anyway, back next week with more. Bye for now.